Here's my 2 cents worth. While student loan debt and tuition costs are very important issues when it comes to colleges and universities, we need to look at the bigger issue that surrounds these things, the profit motive. Yes, the truth is that we need to focus on a number of issues with our educational institutions, which include not just overall cost, but things such as housing, shortages of staff, that being professors, counselors, etc., declining student enrollment, and more. But first, let's talk a little bit about the overall cost. While the increase in cost for college remained roughly steady from the mid-60s until the mid-80s, between 1989 to 1990 and 1999 to 2000, the total cost of attendance, that being fees, tuition, room, and board, increased 66.3% at public four-year schools from $4,975 to $8,274. At private four-year schools, the cost of tuition grew 74% from $8,396 to $14,616. The 90s saw the rise of for-profit schools taking advantage of federal funding programs and increase in hidden expenses such as textbooks, transportation, and parking. And that has all continued to this day. The average cost of tuition and fees for the 2021 to 2022 school year was $28,238 for out-of-state students at public schools and $11,631 for state residents at public colleges, according to data compiled to the U.S. News in an annual survey. The average student spends $628 and $1,471 annually for books and supplies as of the 2021 to 2022 academic year. While only roughly 40% of full-time public university students and 60% of full-time private college students live in college housing, the total estimated cost of living per year for students, including food, housing, clothing, phone plan, miscellaneous, is around $14,435, according to ThinkImpact.com. It costs an average of $362 to park on a college campus for the school year, or $181 per semester. So let's add all of that together. For the average in-state full-time student going to a public college, that's over $27,000 a year. This is one of the main reasons that 48 million Americans have student loan debt, and 66% of graduates from public colleges have student loans. Now, let's look into why it costs so much. It's also important to take into account that while the four-year degree sounds nice, for many it's simply a myth. While I myself was very fortunate and got done in 4 years with no loans taken out, many others aren't as fortunate. In fact, only 1 in 3 students finish in 4, and only just over 57% graduate in 6 years. 33% of students drop out of college each year, with the main reason being expense. In fact, 89% of students from the first generation in low-earning families tend to drop out of college. About 2 in 5, 42%, college dropouts cite financial reasons for leaving school, outweighing the percentage of students who left for other reasons such as family commitments and health reasons, according to Fox Business. For those who take the extra 2 years, it costs $15,933 more in tuition, fees, and room and board for every extra year at a public 2-year college, and $22,826 for every added year at a public 4-year university, according to the report by the nonprofit Complete College America. Some of the reasons it takes students so long include colleges having added too many unnecessary degree requirements and remedial courses that keep students in school for much longer than needed. But an even bigger issue, I'd argue, would be certain classes only being taught one time a semester or only on certain days during a semester. For example, in my major, journalism at Sac State, yes, I did a little bit of investigative work on this, many classes are only taught once a semester by one professor, and there's even a required class for a journalism degree that is only offered this semester between 6 to 8:50 on Tuesday nights. For students who also hold jobs to try to make money and pay the bills, this isn't always easy. In fact, this is one of the very few ways that COVID may have actually made college better for some. Instead of having to work a class around their schedule, they were now able to get coursework done online and mostly around their own time. This needs to start being an option for more students, even though now the worst of COVID is behind us. But there's also a shortage of professors at these schools as well, just like there are a shortage of teachers in America, so it's not as easy to have multiple classes per semester to be offered. There's also a shortage of academic advisors at many college campuses. In a new report done by Titan Partners, an investment banking services and strategy consultancy for education institutions, that drew on responses from over 2,000 advisors, faculty members, and administrators representing over 1,000 colleges, including 136 Hispanic-serving institutions and 38 historically black colleges and universities, it found that more than 2/3 of advisors, for whom advising students was their primary role, manage a caseload of more than 150 students. There's no way that each student is going to get the time allocated that they need to when it comes to their academics. The report argues that advisors with higher caseloads have less time to spend with individual students. Another important thing to note for cost is athletics. Here's a story from NBC News. Caitlin Waltemeyer, a junior at James Madison University in Virginia, was stunned by what she learned during a seemingly simple assignment for the campus newspaper, dissecting the school's tuition bill. Buried in each student's yearly cost of almost $23,000 was a required fee of $2,340 solely to finance the school's sports teams. The money was not for using the gym or for funding student clubs and activities. It was only for underwriting the cost of athletic teams, and a student could only find out about it by visiting and searching the school's website. Schools in Division I, the top level of college sports, collected $1.2 billion in fiscal 2018, according to NCAA figures, 51% more than a decade ago. By contrast, the average yearly tuition at a four-year public college has risen 37% in the same span, according to the College Board. As far as I'm concerned, if college students are being told by many people to pick up their bootstraps to make it, we can say the same exact shit to sports teams themselves, even if it hurts them or their revenues a little bit. This all comes back to the main point, and I talked about this issue because of the new bill signed by Biden that includes $20,000 in debt cancellation to Pell Grant recipients with loans held by the Department of Education, and up to $10,000 in debt cancellation to non-Pell Grant recipients. Borrowers are eligible for this relief if their individual income is less than $125,000 or $250,000 for married couples. The main arguments and reasons I hear against this proposal are A, this isn't fair to those who had to pay for student loans, and B, isn't this just kicking the can down the road and not actually solving the issue of profit for colleges? Let me go through both of these arguments. First, A is the classic argument you're going to hear about a lot of different issues. I don't think it's right to say that we should continue doing something negative or bad just because other people had to deal with that pain or negativity. I'm sorry if you were one of those that did have to deal with that, but that argument can be made for many horrible things that have been done in the history of the United States of America. As LA Times writer Michael Hiltzik put it, quote, "This is the argument from pure selfishness and a formula for permanent governmental paralysis." If you take this argument to its logical conclusion, it could be an argument used against women getting the right to vote, ending segregation, or even freeing the slaves. The truth is, when society progresses, of course it's not going to be fair for those who had to deal with the previous issues, but that doesn't mean we should keep things stagnant. Now let's go on to argument B, and this one is a much better argument. The truth is, Biden's plan does help people, but it also kind of does kick the can down the road. It does cut monthly payments in half for undergraduate loans for those who still are going through college, but this does keep the profit motive of colleges very much so in place, and the only way you can truly cut that off is if the government comes in and steps in and takes over by making public colleges tuition-free and paid for via taxes. To be fair, we should also offer free trade schools, as there are millions of students and those that also deserve a break. I believe the number was 16 million in 2016. There are already a number of countries that have free secondary education, such as the Nordic nations, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Germany, and Iceland. And look, I'm well aware of the argument that it could diminish the quality of education, but nations with free college still rank right up there with the United States in terms of educational systems and how well educated their populations are. The other main argument or question/concern is how would we pay for it? This is a very complicated question, as some other nations have different plans. Many point to Finland when they talk about the cost because it's a good example. The Finnish government pays 96% of the total cost of providing young Finns with a college education, but there's a big loophole to that. Their institutions only accept 33% of applicants. Sweden isn't ideal either, as even though they pay for education via taxes there, more people there live on their own, and with the cost of living rising, many students there are left in even more debt than in the United States. Norway spends 30% of its gross domestic product per capita on educational institutions, more than the OECD average of 26%, and spends 7.6% of its total GDP on education, compared to the United States, 4.9%. Germany simply shifted what they paid before and set up a dual education system that combines apprenticeship in companies and vocational education at vocational school in one course. The truth is, cost is not the only problem. But if we get rid of the for-profit motive of colleges by stepping in and dealing with tuition, we can at least get rid of a big financial burden that students face. One thing is certain, this is not a foolproof solution, and we need to take a look at all of the various issues that secondary education has. But doing nothing on this issue is not the answer. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my 2 cents worth. Thank you very much for tuning in. I know that there was a lot more I could have said on this issue, such as scholarships, the fact that public schools K through 12 should help students get them set up better for success, college students changing majors. I mean, there's tons of that stuff I could go into, but I wanted to highlight some of the key points on this issue. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I'll be right back here probably in a couple weeks with another one. Until then, take care. Peace out.